Welcome to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. You can send questions for each show on Twitter using the hashtag IndieBeacon. Now sit back and enjoy learning about our guest for this show.
Hey, good evening. This is Rox Berkey, and I am so honored tonight to have a very good friend who is not only an author, but she's a speaker and a blogger, CJ Peterson. Welcome, CJ.
Thank you.
So, CJ, we have so much to cover because you are such a busy person that I want to try and make sure that we get everything in that we talked about.
Okay.
So the first thing I really would like to start with is your background. How did you get into writing, and how did you get into writing so many stories?
Well, initially, writing was my form of escape. Growing up, I didn't have a really good time. And so initially just reading would take me out of the situation, and I enjoyed that portion of it. And then my imagination started taking off, and what I could do with writing was I could change the situation that I currently was in. So I have a bunch of books kind of set aside, and what I was doing was I would read through them with my husband, and he says, "Why don't you publish some of these?" I'm like, okay. So I took the initial stories and I'm kind of converting them over, and they basically take on a life of their own. As far as the one I currently have, there are 3 series out, and the characters actually cross over storylines.
Which is fascinating, because not only do the characters seem to cross over, but you have a whole way of putting realms that are crossing between each other, which is very exciting. So what are the 3 series? I know that there's one, the Holy Flame trilogy.
There's the Holy Flame trilogy, there's the Grace Restored series, and then there's Divine Legacy series. The Holy Flame trilogy and the Grace Restored series are actually going on at the same time. And the characters in the Divine Legacy are actually the kids from the first 2 series. There's about a 20-year jump between those 2 sections. So
Now, in those 3 series right now, you have 11 books that are completed, I think.
yes.
And you're working on number 12.
Yes, I'm kind of dragging my feet though, because I've been with this crew since 2012.
So what happens with characters? And I mean, that's 6.5 years roughly that you've been with those characters. They take on a life of their own for you as an author?
Yes, well, you kind of have to they have their own voice, they have their own life. You start with one character. The best way to explain it is, usually there are 2 types of writers. There's planners and there's pantsers. Planners are the ones like my sister, who usually has like the butcher board up on with a bunch of Post-it notes. I'm the one that sits down, prays, types, and just goes. The only thing I keep is a running list of the characters. So the characters basically dictate where the storyline goes. I never know how a story is going to end once I start it.
So after 6.5 some odd years with all of these stories and these characters, do you have a favorite?
That's like asking which child is your favorite. I mean, I have my favorites, but there's not really one in particular.
Okay.
Casey Carter's the main in the Holy Flame trilogy. Katie McKenna is the main in the Grace Restored series. And then Rachel Sullivan and Angel English are the 2 main in the other one. If you were to read the Divine Legacy series, you would probably think that Angel was my least favorite because she's the one that tends to go through the most. But each character for me has something in it that I love. I mean, each character has a portion of me in it as well.
Now, I know that you and your husband, I know he helps you and supports you in all of this writing effort. Does he read everything that you write?
Yes. Yep. Actually, what we do is we bump up the font. So it's like about 183 magnified. And I read it aloud, and he reads along with it and catches anything that I miss, because as a writer, you know what's supposed to be on there, and what's supposed to be on there isn't always what's on the pages.
Right.
But he also catches like inconsistencies. He's retired Navy corpsman, So he helps with the medical advising, and he also helps with the military advising.
So that's awesome. So these series are very powerful. They have a real message, even if you only take one of the series and don't look at the other two, right? I mean, so the end message in the Holy Flame trilogy, I mean, where are you trying to go with that particular series?
Many different directions. The main one is basically there's one verse that is my favorite.
Okay.
And it's the one that I hold dear. It's Jeremiah 29:11, and this will actually explain all three series. It's for I know that the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. My characters go through insane stuff, but God is the one that pulls them out of it. They hold on to mainly that verse, or at least that portion of the verse that says, you know, a hope and a future. God has a plan for them. That's the main theme that's basically laced through the whole thing, is that God has a plan for your future. You can have the hope and you can stand firm in that. Doesn't matter what the character goes through. In these books, the spiritual realm actually crosses into the physical. So, you know, where you have angels, you have demons. Where you have dark, light. It's a battle. It's a serious spiritual battle. So it's going on all over the place. But in the Holy Flame trilogy, you have firefighting and military. In the Grace Restored series, there's police, FBI, and ranching. And then the Divine Legacy series with the kids, I say that that's like chaos happening all over the world, because they take over what's known as the angels, which is the group that's lacing everything together, which stands for available to nurture God's eternal love. They get their assignments from the archangel, who ships them out into the world to help people. The initial group that you meet in the Holy Flame trilogy, the angels are actually Air Force Spec Ops guys. So they really get into it. And then as each generation takes over, it takes on a whole new meaning.
Now, I know from conversations we've had that you really, you have a very strong faith-based foundation in your life. And that really seems to not only strengthen this series, but makes you stay balanced as you're writing the series.
Yeah, it's hard. People are like, well, how do you write Christian fiction? And I said, well, concerning that Christianity is at my core, I cannot not write Christian fiction. It's going to bleed through. Because when you write a story or you write a book, you're putting your heart and your soul into your book and into your work. So whatever is at your core is going to come out regardless.
And I know too that you've done some traveling.
Yeah.
How does the travel come into this series and help make it more vivid?
Well, in different series, there is actually a series I'm working on a later time, and it's basically out of South Africa. My husband is South African initially, now he's a naturalized American, and so we took a trip to South Africa, and I got this idea. And while we were there, and we were in the middle of a restaurant, and I grabbed a napkin and I just started writing. The waiter comes over and goes, "Do you want some paper?" Because I just every napkin on the table, and I'm like, "Hey, thank you." And so we brainstormed together and had like 5 pages of notes that are currently in my computer, and I can't get to them till I'm done with this one. But it's like when you go on different vacations and you go and meet different people, whether it's all over America or just all over the world, the different cultures and histories fascinate me anyway. But specifically in writing these stories, sometimes stuff happens in Australia. I haven't been there yet, but I've always wanted to go.
I'm with you.
Ireland, England, Russia, Mexico. I mean, there's all sorts of different things that pop up within it, and parts of it have come from traveling. But
So
I do enjoy traveling. I do have a lot of photographs on my website from all the travels. So if you want to experience them, head on over.
And that's a really good point. So your website, I think, is right behind you, just to make sure that the people that are watching this, but in case they're listening only, you want to call out that website for them?
Sure. It's cjpetersonwrites.com. That's cjpetersonwrites.com.
Now, your website is really fascinating because it does show several different things, not only pieces of all of the series, but it does show the photographs, and that makes it really, really special. So, unfortunately, I love this series. We're going to take a short break.
Okay.
And then when we come back, I want to kind of delve into some of the other books outside of these series, if that's okay, CJ.
Sure.
All right, we'll be right back.
What would you do if you found out everyone on the town council were thieves and murderers? That's what happened in Bandera, Texas in 1873. John Cruder was the marshal, yet he needed to operate outside the law in order to balance the scales of justice. He is the Midnight Marauder. You can find his books on Amazon.com and TopWesterns.com in paperback, digital, and audio. I'm Roy Clinton, and I hope you'll read The Midnight Marauder.
Indie Lector is a store for serious readers and indie authors. Find great talent at indielector.store and save money on books with their book club. A portion of the proceeds helps get books into schools and libraries in need. Find a great book to read by an indie author at indielector.store. Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
Hi, this is Rox Berkey, and I'm back with CJ Peterson. And CJ, thanks for sticking around. Now, we've talked about the series, and that's important. I don't want to disregard them, but I want to talk a little bit about some of the other things you have written, particularly along the lines, and I know this is maybe letting a cat out of the bag, but you have some and things that you have written that maybe you weren't totally satisfied with.
Not quite sure what you mean.
Well, some books that you wrote and published a long time ago. That you're thinking about going back and editing and redoing to a certain degree because of your now where you are with your writing, your skill, and all of that. Is that a fair statement?
Gotcha. I know where you're going with that. Yeah. So there was another book that I actually have published. It's a standalone, and it's Strength from Within. It was my very first book and not professionally edited. And I'm actually working on going through that one. That particular character, Stacy Spencer, her story actually comes into play in the Grace Restored series. So she actually still crosses over a little bit as well. But if you find that book, don't read it yet. Disclaimer out there. I need to rewrite it first, and then I will relaunch it. But she comes in at the end of Seasons of Change, which is the first book in the Grace Restored series, and her portion of the story ends in Spring Shadows. But her child may come into play in this last book in the Divine Legacy series. So again, it crosses over.
Yep, and that's really fascinating. Very hard to keep track of because trying to keep the threads of a series going is certainly one challenge. Trying to keep the thread of 3 series going, my hat's off to you. You're doing an amazing thing, which is probably why it's a little slow in getting done, because what happens when you finish it? Is that it for the series?
For this particular series, yes, but it doesn't mean that you won't potentially see the angels elsewhere. They may pop up here and there because angels are going to be throughout the world and throughout time. So you may see another one pop up somewhere elsewhere.
So what other books do you have going on? Because again, you're busy balancing everything. So what else do you have going on?
But I will say this, I am ADD. which helps with keeping everything open, because an ADD person basically is like having 20 window pops ups at one time going. So that helps me, and I've learned to work with it as far as writing, and that's what helps let me keep everybody in track. As far as what's next after this, I'm really excited. I do have a standalone that I've already started, and this will be letting the cat out of the bag a little bit. Let's see if I can say it without completely going off. The next book, as a teaser, is a fire marshal who falls in love with an arsonist. So there is a moral dilemma in there that will be very deep.
Oh my gosh, how fun is that? Now, your books are currently available in paperback and ebook, right? Do you have audibles going anywhere in your plan?
Not yet. I want to venture into the world of audibles, but I don't want to do it with the 12-book series. What I'm probably going to do is the book that's coming out in probably August, September, which is the one I just mentioned.
Right.
That's probably where I would start, because that's one book. Kind of like how I started my career with the one book.
Right.
I want to do the same thing. I want to be kind of solid on my feet before I tackle a 12-book series.
I can certainly understand that. Now, you know, when you're doing that too, you have to decide how it's going to be recorded. Are you going to have some professional narration or, you know, something else?
Exactly.
Yeah, it does take time. So I'm sure that your fans will be very happy when you get that available to them.
They are. A lot of them are chomping at the bit. They're like, well, how come they're not on Audible? Because I do a lot of driving, especially I'm from East Texas. There's a lot of driving to get everywhere.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, do you have it on audio? Because I can do it while I'm on my commute. And I'm like, not yet, but just have patience. It will be coming. I have researched it. I have people kind of a finger away. I just got to get the right book for it.
There you go. So one of the things that's very interesting about your website, and I do encourage people to go to your website, is they can certainly see everything about you, which is very important. And one of the things I really liked in your background, and you might want to mention it just a little bit, and I think it's kind of part of your religious foundation, is that you're a youth leader.
Yes, ma'am. I've been a youth leader for a little bit over 18 years. Youth has changed a lot in 18 years. Personally, love y'all. I would not want to be a teenager right now. There's so much pressure, especially with the social media now. But I love them to death. I love them like my own. So I have, right now I have the 8th grade girls. When I have a certain group of girls, I call them my monkeys. One of my favorite sayings is "Not my circus, not my monkeys." In other words, save the drama for your mama. You're not in my circus. But if I call you my monkeys, then you're one of my own. And then there's a couple girls that I actually mentor. And one of them has, when I first start mentoring them, they moved from a monkey to young Padawan, like in Star Wars.
Right.
And then at that point, then they moved to young Jedi. So I do have a young Padawan and I have a young Jedi. And then the young Jedi is kind of inching toward Master Jedi. When she reaches Master, then she's on her own. So
there you go. So in doing the youth leader programs that you do and working with these girls, how much of that is coming into, for example, the Divine Legacy series?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, I mean, do you use the girls and their personalities to enter some realism into that series when the next gen group that are part of it?
Not really so much, no.
Okay.
But there are certain characters who are based loosely on real people. For example, in the Grace Restored series, there's Officer Herman Williams. He's a really good friend of ours named Bill Herman. And so he gave me permission to use him as a character. There actually is a former teen who is one of the characters in the Divine Legacy series, the one that's Jacob Armstrong. He is actually loosely based on a real person.
Okay.
And so but they have permission. A lot of people will come to me and they're like, I'm known as a literary assassin, so keep that in mind when I say what I'm about to say.
Okay.
They always ask me, I'm so excited to realize that you're an author. Can I be a character in your book?
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, and they're like, just please don't kill me is always the next line. So trying not to kill people is usually more harder for me than trying to kill them in a book.
Right. That's funny. That's really cute. Now, you also are very, very involved in libraries, and you're very involved in book events.
Mm-hmm.
So you travel to these events a great deal.
Correct. My sister, Lydia Mann, she's also known online as manwrites.com. She writes for children, usually 6th grade and under. She's
Okay.
worked on a couple different books. The reason I mention her is because we go together. We're a team. She's more in the Dallas area. I'm more in Longview area. So what we do is we flip sides of the state. To find us and find out where we're going to be at next is the appearances page that's on my website. So you can find out where we are and you can come see us and have fun. We enjoy it. We meet tons of people. We've actually started going into some of the Comic-Cons this year. We did.
Oh,
yep,
that's fun.
Oh, they're a blast. We did Arlington Last year. I had so much fun. And I'm excited we're going to be doing the Longview Comic-Con this year, hopefully Arlington again. And so they're just a great group of people.
Awesome. So unfortunately, we're right up where we need another break.
Okay.
Listen to our sponsors. So if you would stick around, when we come back, I want to talk about one of the newer things you have going with your sister. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back.
The Best of Eve, recipes from around the world. This was written by Eve, who was born in Holland and lived in South Africa and eventually came to Texas. This is no ordinary recipe book. This has herbs and spices and liqueurs and has a short story about Eve. The Best of Eve can be purchased on Amazon, and it is written by Helen Monday.
The Holy Spirit is gifting our children and grandchildren, and they are naturally able to show God's power to the world. Amazon bestseller Anne Lynn Noble and her granddaughter Carlisle capture insights and learnings of growing spiritually through the pages of Glow and Grow in the Grace of God. This inspirational novel provides perspectives on biblical truth from a young believer and her grandmother exploring spirituality. Rekindle that childlike faith with Glow and Grow in the Grace of God. Available now on Amazon and at AnneLynnNobleAuthor.com.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
And this is Rox Berkey. I'm back with CJ Peterson. Welcome back. We're into the last segment, and I think this is going to be one of the more exciting portions of our discussion, CJ. So I want you to kind of explain one of the new things you have going to get stories out there and to involve people.
Well, I'm really excited about it. We just launched it in December with the Dallas mystery writers, no less. It's called One Way Ticket to Murder. So don't think that wasn't a challenge to try to challenge them as mystery writers. It's called One Way Ticket to Murder, which is almost like a live Clue event, so to speak. The troupe there's 4 of us, 3 of us are writers. So whenever we do book anything, we do have a table out. But the 4 of us are 3 writers and my husband and his trusty tracking dog, Delilah. She is a service dog. And we go around to different places. It takes place at about 1882. And it's a murder mystery dinner theater. We come to you. So we have 2 of these planned for February so far, and we're always open for taking new ones. There are pictures on the website under One Way Ticket to Murder tab, and there's ways to contact me, and I will help schedule them. We're currently serving just Texas at the moment, though.
You know, it's interesting that you chose 1882 as the time frame for this activity, and I think we need to remind people these are private parties, so it's not like they can find out where you're going to be next and crash and see you and everything. So
Correct.
I know that you keep them kind of an intimate size when you put them together. But 1882 is interesting. Why that period of time?
Well, nowadays there's a lot of things to help people as far as crime scene investigation. In 1882, not so much. But also one of the authors, Shanna Spence, is a history author, and that time frame always fascinated me anyway.
Okay.
I play C.J. Peterson of Pinkerton Private Security. I actually have, as part of my costume, a gun replica from the OK Corral.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we try to make it as authentic as possible. We actually use 2 of your people as actors as well, which adds to a bit of the fun.
So does everybody that comes to this event, do they dress up?
They can. The Dallas mystery writers, though, it was a surprise for them. They didn't know. But the more they dress up, the more fun it is.
So you're going to do this in addition to all of the writing that you're doing, in addition to finishing book 12 soon.
Very soon. I need to get it to my editor. So
And then,
if you're listening, I'm trying.
well, hopefully that's the case. So, where are you going to be able to be available in case someone wants to come see you, get you to sign a book, shake your hand, talk to you? Where are you going to be next? I know it's on the website, but maybe let people know.
The next one is the Take 190 book show that's on March 9th, actually regards to Texas authors. It's one of their shows. I actually have my books as special book show pricings when you come. So you get a good deal and you get to meet me and you get to meet my sister, who is a trip. The one after that that one's in Colleen. The one after that will be April 8th in Denton, Texas at the North Texas Book Festival.
Nice.
Next one on schedule will be in the East Texas area at the Longview Comic-Con. So we try to balance out different parts of the state.
Oh, that's awesome. And where are your books available, real quick, while we still have some moments?
Again, you go to the website is probably the easiest way to find them. Each one has its own tab, and it gives it for paperback and for ebook links. The Call to Duty and the Grace Restored series is Seasons of Change. As far as ebook, are actually only available on Amazon Kindle, but they're only 99 cents a piece. The other ebooks are Kindle, Nook, iTunes, and Kobo. Paperbacks are on Barnes & Noble and on Amazon. The ebooks and paperback are also available on booklocker.com as well. One cool thing I didn't mention about my books, which is really interesting, is that a portion of the proceeds from each of the series go to help different charities. So the Holy Flame Trilogy and the Divine Legacy series, a portion of the proceeds go to Texas Airborne Angel Cadets who ship packages overseas during military. And that's a completely volunteer organization.
That's awesome, CJ. And I'm so excited. I wish we had another segment that we could continue with. But folks, thank you very much for joining CJ Peterson. Take a look at her website, cjpetersonwrites.com. And thank you, CJ. Talk again soon.
Thank you, Rox.
I am Grace Allison Blair, an award-winning author, motivational speaker, and modern mystic. I have combined spiritual and psychological principles in my nonfiction self-help books under Grace Allison and fiction books under Grace Blair. Go to modernmysticmedia.com to find Do You Have a Dream? 5 Keys to Realize Your Dream, and my novel, Einstein's Compass, a YA time traveler adventure.
What started as a love letter to her son has become an international love letter for all parents to their children. Now you can read acclaimed author Shanna Lee Charbonneau's story to your children. When her son was very sick, she calmed him by singing her own song to him. She turned that song into the book, My Mama Loves Me, I'm Her Little Boy. She wrote 3 more magical books for all parents and kids 6 and under. Available at Indie Lecter, Amazon, and all local and national outlets.
Thank you for listening to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. To learn more about Indie Beacon services, to be a guest on the show, or to advertise on our show, please visit our website at indiebeacon.com.